Welcome to A View from the Summit with Blake Higginbotham. Stay tuned for current revelatory teaching and solid foundational training that will help you discover the purpose for which you were born. Thank you for tuning in, and remember to share this broadcast with your friends and family.
Hello, this is Blake Higginbotham with Apostolic Kingdom Alliance. Welcome to A View from the Summit. I'm going to be sharing a word with you today that became a teaching and now will probably be destined to become another book. But it's based on the reality that if we're ever to really begin to understand the value and importance of our oneness, we're going to have to represent one voice. Some would say that's one mouth, one voice and one mouth. And the sound that we're making needs to be a certain sound. And it does not necessarily need to be a similar sound. It needs to be a certain sound, especially in this day and hour where there's so many voices to be heard and so much ground clutter and white noise and distractions going on. I was meditating on really something that's been developing and going on in my life for some time. And late last year in the fall, I started writing some books that were going to prophetically speak to where we're going. And I ended up writing 9 books at the end of the year last year, moving toward what I believe to be a very important theme, not just a little catchphrase, one heart and one burning passion, based on Acts 1:14. And those that have been walking with me for some time understand how important this is to me. They understand my heart concerning it. But sometimes we forget how important not just one heart, one burning passion, but one voice really is. And when I say one voice, I'm not talking about us all necessarily seeing and hearing and saying everything just alike. But I'm talking about it needs to represent the voice of the Spirit and the voice of the Son, which is a language. The voice of the Spirit and the voice of a Son is a language we speak. And when that voice is being heard in the land, and that language is being spoken, let me tell you that it has such a deep impact that you can almost feel it in the natural. It's almost like a tremor or an earthquake takes place. Wherever the voice is being heard and the language is being spoken, there's a lot of shaking going on. And for some, it may sound like thunder. For others, it may be a voice. And for some, it may be a word. But it depends on where you're at in your spiritual timeline and spiritual dimension as to whether or not you can hear this voice, which is a word that's being spoken. And I'm reminded of the importance of singing the same song. Harmony parts, while different, are still singing the same song. Everybody can't sing the lead line. We need alto, we need tenor, we need soprano, we need bass. It's the same song being vocalized at the same time, and if it's in tune and on pitch and in key, it's a beautiful harmony that takes place like a symphony that's not tuning up in the beginning, which is just various sounds and sound bites that you're hearing tuning up. But once they get tuned and start playing the melody together, and they basically stay in their part. Some would say stay in their lane, but they're playing a particular instrument, and that instrument is not the lead instrument. It is an accompanying instrument. It is an instrument that adds to the symphony and orchestra. It is one of the most beautiful things you've ever heard. Well, being a musician, I understand the importance of being in tune. I also understand the importance of complementary instruments. I understand the importance of lead instruments. Being a musician, a songwriter, and a singer, I understand the importance of harmony parts being on key and pitch, and each of those parts complementing the lead line of the song. Well, to be honest with you, There are seeing and hearing gifts out here that are not necessarily singing on key or pitch or the lead line at this point. They're seeing in part. They still have some issues to work out in their own lives, but they're not clearly hearing and obeying the voice of the Spirit at this point. They are, to some degree, beginning to understand some things. But let's face it, it doesn't have anything to do with how long you've been doing this. It has to do with your heart toward truth. It also has to do with Yahweh's will and purpose for your life. If you're seeing and hearing part, and you are clearly speaking the language of the Son and of the Spirit, it's not necessarily going to be the most popular thing that's out there. It's not going to be necessarily broadly accepted up front. But I want you to know that I don't need a reputation. I don't have a reputation. I don't need the limelight or center stage. I'm not trying to build a ministry. I am a son of the kingdom who is a part of the Ekklesia and I happen to be a gift sent to the Ekklesia to help us see the protocol and the prototype and the pattern of the house that Yahshua is building. And I want you to know that there's still a lot of voices out there. And most of them are sound bites. They're reverberations. They're echoes. They are not an accurate voice or language being spoken. They're part of something, but most of the time, the things that we carry and speak are the things that we are comfortable with or that fit into what we're already doing. And I want you to know that what I'm going to share with you today, I believe to be a true and accurate word that we all need to consider moving forward. Now, if you can't move forward with me, I understand that. If you can move forward with me, then I expect you to begin to harmonize and to flow with and to walk with and to make harmony and unity are not only our goal, but our life. And you know my heart concerning John 17, verses 21 through 26. And I too truly desire to be a part of the answer to Yahshua's prayer in this generation. You know my heart concerning Ephesians 4, verses 1 through 6. And I sincerely desire to fully embrace the Father's heart concerning our oneness. And I know there are those that believe that we're one in the Spirit and that's enough. There are those who believe that we all have a different part and place and a different assignment and mandate and all of those things. But I want you to know that your assignment, if it does not advance the kingdom, it's not something that you receive from the heart of the Father. If your mandate is pressing a narrative and forwarding something that is not going to advance the kingdom in this life on earth as it is in heaven, then you need to reconsider your mandate. And you also need to go back to the ready room and be debriefed and be redeployed at least in your thinking. This is a day where perceptions are going to be challenged. And I promise you that this word will challenge your perception. Stay tuned. The title of this word, which became a short teaching and will be probably a book, is called One Voice. And this is a special edition of View from the Summit. Hearing what the Spirit is saying to the Ekklesia in an age of echoes. Hearing what the Spirit is saying to the Ekklesia in an age of echoes. I didn't say what the Spirit said. I'm not saying what the Bible teaches. I'm saying what the Spirit is saying, present tense logian, to the Ekklesia in an age of echoes. Introduction. There's a sound that heaven is releasing in this hour. It's not new, yet it is present. It's not loud, yet it is unmistakable. It is not many voices competing. It is one voice being heard by many who have learned to listen. The challenge before the Ekklesia is not activity, it is clarity. We have no shortage of message, sermons, podcasts, conferences and conversations. Yet in the midst of all this sound, there remains a question that must be asked. Are we truly hearing what the Spirit is saying? Are we simply repeating what others have already said? Because there's a difference between a movement of sound and a movement of spirit. An echo can fill a room, but it cannot transform a life. A true voice, however, carries weight, authority, and alignment because it originates from communion. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. I believe a better translation would be, he that has an ear to hear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying to the Ekklesia. Because churches indicates a plurality. There's no such thing as a plurality of churches. It's one Ekklesia in every locale and region. But there were letters being written to the seven church is the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 7. And you know about these letters. So let's just don't get bogged down there. I just wanted to make it clear what this scripture is saying. He who has an ear to hear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying to the Ekklesia. Not only in this day and hour, but then as well. This is not a call to listen casually. It is a call to hear with intention, to discern, to receive, to become. The Spirit is speaking. The question is, who is listening? This teaching is an invitation to move from an echo to voice, from repetition to revelation, from noise to clarity, and from mixture into the pure one voice. The nature of one voice. One voice does not mean uniformity of language. It means unity of source. When the Spirit speaks, he does not celebrate confusion. He does not create confusion. He creates convergence. Did you hear me? When the Spirit speaks, he does not create confusion. He creates convergence. Different people, different places, different expressions, yet the same essence, same flow, same heartbeat. This is what happened in the early Ekklesia. They were continually devoting themselves to the apostles' doctrine, teaching, and to fellowship, and the breaking of bread and of prayer. The apostles' teaching, fellowship, breaking of bread, and prayers. There was not fragmentation. There was alignment, not because they coordinated their speech, but because they shared the same source. One voice is the sound of the people who have heard the same Spirit. I want to tell you how important alignment is before I go any further with this teaching. I found out yesterday I put brand new tires on my vehicle, and I found out that my front end was out of alignment. If I would have continued to drive with my front end out of alignment, it would have wore my brand new tires out very quickly. But now that my front end is aligned and my front end is aligned with my rear end, all four tires roll down the road straight and a whole lot smoother than they would have as my tires wore out my front end, and we would have had to change the struts and possibly even some other front end parts. But alignment is very important if we're going to stay on the road and move forward in advancing the kingdom. Alignment is very important. The danger of an uncertain sound. When the sound becomes uncertain, confusion follows. And that's what we need to avoid at all costs, because Yahweh is not the author of confusion, but of peace. For if the trumpet produces an indistinct sound, who will prepare himself for battle? 1 Corinthians 14:8 says. An uncertain sound is not always wrong. However, it is often mixed. It is a blending of truth with opinion, revelation with assumption, spirit with intellect, hearing with imitation, and mixture always produces instability. An uncertain sound causes confusion, indirection, disillusionment, in expectation, and fragmentation in community. I've seen this time and time again. Time and time again. Confusion in direction, disillusionment in expectation, and fragmentation in community, because people cannot align with what is unclear. Did I make myself clear? People cannot align with what is unclear. The Ekklesia was never meant to operate in ambiguity. It was designed to move with precision, respond to a clear and present voice. Voice versus echo. This is where the dividing line becomes clear. A voice is born in presence. An echo is formed through proximity. A voice hears directly. Listen, a voice hears directly, processes deeply, and speaks authentically. Listen, authentically carries authority. An echo repeats quickly, mimics accurately, sounds familiar, and lacks weight. An echo can sound right, but it cannot reproduce life. But prove yourselves doers of the word and not merely hearers who delude themselves. 22. Many have heard, but few have become. And until the word becomes flesh within us, we remain echoes of something we have not yet embodied. And how many times have I said and written to many of us, his children and sons and family, are operating way beyond where we're actually living based on revelation knowledge that someone else wrote to or spoke to. I want to read this again now with that in mind. Many have heard, but few have become. And until the word becomes flesh within us, we remain echoes of something we have not yet embodied. The Spirit is not looking for better repetition. He's looking for authentic expression. The process of becoming a voice. A true voice is not developed on a platform. It's formed in secret. It comes through stillness, listening, yielding, and obedience. Stillness, listening, yielding, and obedience. Your ears will hear a word behind you. This is the way, walk in it. Whenever you turn to the right or to the left, Isaiah 30, verse 21. It's an example of how he speaks. Hearing requires slowing down. In a culture driven by speed, reaction, and constant output, the Spirit often speaks in ways that require us to pause. To become a voice, we must value presence over performance, value listening over speaking, value transformation over information. Because we hear in secret, we carry what we carry in public. And what we carry determines what we release. What we hear in secret becomes what we carry in public. And what we carry determines what we release. What is the Spirit saying now? The Spirit is not silent. He is speaking clearly in this hour, calling the Ekklesia back to alignment. The Spirit has been and is saying, return to simplicity. Strip away the unnecessary noise. Return to intimacy. Hear me for yourself. Return to identity. Know who you are as sons. Return to unity of spirit, not manufactured agreement, but shared hearing. He is refining the soul. He's removing the mixture. He is silencing the unnecessary so that what is essential can be heard. This is not a season for more voices. It's a season for clear voices. Voices that carry his heart. Voices that reflect his nature. Voices that release his intent. Conclusion. This call is simple, but it's not casual. Be a voice, not because you have something to say, but because you've heard him. The authority of your voice will not come from your platform, your influence, your volume, your repetition. It will come from your alignment with the one voice. In an age filled with echoes, heaven is looking for those who will withdraw. Listen, withdraw to hear, and speak and release a sound that is clear, pure, and true. Because when the Ekklesia hears from the same Spirit, there is no striving to agree. Because when the Ekklesia hears from the same Spirit, there is no striving to agree. There is harmony, there is clarity, there is movement, and there is power. So the question remains, are you a voice or an echo? And more importantly, what is the Spirit saying to you right now? Things to consider moving forward. Number one, if you're seeing through a glass darkly, you may be susceptible to the influence of sound bites from a myriad of voices. For now, we are looking in a mirror that gives only a dim, blurred reflection of reality, as in a riddle or enigma. But then, when perfection comes, we shall see in reality and face to face. I'm talking about face to face seeing. Now I know in part, imperfectly, but when I shall know and understand fully and clearly, even in the same manner as I have been fully and clearly known and understood by God. That's found in 1 Corinthians 13:12. Let me speak more specifically to the term when perfection comes. When perfection comes is talking about revelation knowledge, not a particular translation or paraphrased edition of the Bible. It is understanding that comes from being further enlightened by more illumination. It's not talking about when the printed word was offered, that which is perfect has come. When perfection comes, when he's talking about is when we're hearing the voice within the sound, and we're hearing the word within the voice, it becomes the language of the Spirit, which is the language of the Son. And when the Son speaks, eternity and creation listen. Two, if you're still thinking and acting like a child, then it may be time for you to slow your roll, hunker down, and stop being blown about by every wind of doctrine. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. Now that I've become a man, I'm done with childish ways and have put them aside. That's 1 Corinthians 13, verse 11. So then, we may no longer be children, tossed like ships to and fro between chance gusts of teaching and wavering with every changing wind of doctrine, the prey of the cunning and cleverness of unscrupulous men, gamblers engaged in every shifting form of trickery, in inventing errors to mislead. And trust me, there are tons of them. Rather, let our lives lovingly express truth. Let our lives lovingly express truth. In all things, speaking truly, dealing truly, living truly. Enfolded in love, let us grow up in everything, in every way, in all things, into Him who is the head, even Christ, the Messiah, the Anointed One. Enfolded in love, let us grow up in every way and in all things into Him who is the head. For because of Him, the whole body, the church, the Ekklesia, in all its various parts, closely joined and firmly knit together by the joints and ligaments with which it is supplied, when each part, with the power adapted to its needs, is working properly, in all its functions, grows to maturity, building itself up in love. How? Building itself up in love. Ephesians 4, verses 14 through 16 in the Amplified Classic. And lastly, and so faith, hope, and love abide. Faith, conviction, and belief respecting man's relation to God and divine things. Hope, joyful and confident expectation of eternal salvation. Love, true affection of God and man growing out of God's love for us and in us. These three, but the greatest of these is love. 1 Corinthians 13:13. My dear brothers and sisters, I pray that I have accurately delivered the heart of the Father concerning one voice to you, keeping in mind that singing the same song, therefore harmony parts of the same song, keeping in mind that harmonizing when we speak this language as one voice, one mouth, with one heart and one burning passion, is the goal. Keeping in mind that we can't always be tuning up. At some point, we've got to be tuned up and able to play, complement, and confirm one another in the work by playing, staying in our lane, playing on the line, and only playing what's been given us to play. If we're going to be a part of a symphony, a concerto, if we're going to be a part of what he's doing in the earth, we've got to begin to make a certain sound. That cannot be accomplished unless we are aligned in him, aligned in him. There's nothing in this day and hour more important than alignment. And so I ask you to allow this word to speak to your heart, prayerfully consider it, and comment wherever you're finding it. Ask some questions and make some comments, and let's continue this conversation together, not only with one heart and one burning passion, but as one voice, speaking the same thing. I love you. This is Blake Higginbotham with A View from the Summit. Until next time, bless you.
Thank you for watching A View from the Summit. We pray that you were encouraged, blessed, and challenged by today's message. All of Blake's music and books can be found and purchased at www.musicbyblh.me. That's www.musicbyblh.me or www.booksbyblh.me. That's www.booksbyblh.me. For more information about Apostolic Kingdom Alliance, go to www.apostolickingdomalliance.com.